Sardines seem like the perfect health food. Tiny fish packed with omega-3s for your heart. At least that is what they want you to believe. But for seniors, hidden dangers are lurking inside those little cans. From bacterial contamination that can paralyze your muscles to sky-high sodium levels that spike your blood pressure. Some brands are gambling with your health. Coming in at number 9, we have Brunswick Sardines. Brunswick has been around since 1893. They were once a proud Canadian fishing company based in New Brunswick. The label looks trustworthy. It says Product of Canada. It feels like a safe choice. But here is what they do not tell you. Brunswick was bought out by Bumblebee, a multinational seafood giant. Since that acquisition, quality has taken a nosedive. Consumer Reports describe popping open a can of Brunswick sardines and finding more water than fish. The fillets are soggy and fall apart between your fingers. The texture is described as mushy, almost like the fish has been sitting in that can for years. And that is not the worst of it. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency issued a recall on Brunswick brand Sardines hot peppers. The reason was container integrity defects. That is official government language for the can was not properly sealed, which means bacteria could have been growing inside that tin from the moment it left the factory. For seniors with compromised immune systems, a contaminated can of sardines is not just unpleasant. It can lead to serious infection, vomiting, hospitalization, even worse. What makes this situation even more troubling is the way the company has handled quality control since the acquisition. Cost-cutting measures became the priority almost immediately. When you pick up a can of Brunswick at your local Loblaws or No Frills, that low price comes from sourcing cheaper fish, processing them faster, spending less on quality assurance at every stage. Longtime sardine consumers have described a noticeable decline over the past decade. The fish used to be firm and well-packed. Now they often arrive broken, swimming in excess liquid, with a texture that is more paste than fillet. The brand promises heritage and quality. What you actually get is a watered-down product from a company that has been cutting corners since it was swallowed up by corporate interests. If you have a can of Brunswick in your pantry right now, you might want to think twice before you open it. At number 8, we have Cloverleaf Sardines. Cloverleaf markets itself as Canada's most trusted seafood brand. Their website proudly states they were voted the #1 most trusted canned seafood brand by Canadians. Sounds reassuring, right? But here's the reality they are not advertising. In January 2021, Cloverleaf Seafoods Corporation issued a nationwide recall on 2 of their sardine products: Cloverleaf Sardines, boneless fillets, garlic, and chive in oil, and Cloverleaf Sardines, boneless fillets, smoked jalapeno in oil. The reason was possible presence of Clostridium botulinum. Let that sink in for a moment. Clostridium botulinum is one of the most dangerous bacteria on the planet. It produces a toxin that can paralyze your muscles. It starts with drooping eyelids, blurred vision, slurred speech, difficulty swallowing. Then it moves to your respiratory system. Without treatment, botulism can kill you by shutting down your ability to breathe. And here is the truly terrifying part the CFIA warned consumers about. Food contaminated with Clostridium botulinum toxin may not look or smell spoiled, but can still make you sick. You cannot tell by looking at it. You cannot tell by smelling it. You open that can and eat a sardine on a cracker. 24 to 36 hours later, you are in the emergency room with muscle paralysis. For seniors already dealing with chronic health conditions, the stakes are even higher. Your body does not fight infections the way it used to. A bout of botulism that a younger person might survive could be devastating to someone over 50. The medical bills alone could wipe out your savings. And that is assuming you survived the initial infection. The label says quality you can trust. The recall says trust at your own risk. Now at number 7, we have Gold Seal Sardines. Gold Seal has been around for over 100 years. They are owned by Ocean Brands, which is part of the Jim Pattison Group out of British Columbia. Sounds Canadian. Sounds reliable. But here is what most people do not realize. Gold Seal sardines are not actually from Canada. They are sourced from various countries around the world. The sardines in that can labeled with the proud Canadian Gold Seal name could be coming from the Indo-Pacific, from Morocco, from anywhere the company can get them cheaply. Why does that matter? Studies have shown that sardines sourced from certain regions contain dangerously high levels of heavy metals: mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic. Research published in scientific journals found that sardines from some sources exceeded threshold values for heavy metals set by European standards. Arsenic levels in some tested sardines exceeded the permissible limit in 100% of samples. And these heavy metals do not just pass through your system. They accumulate. They build up in your tissues over time. A single can of sardines might contain only trace amounts of these metals, but you are not eating just one can in your lifetime. If you have been eating canned sardines regularly for decades, those trace amounts add up. And by the time symptoms appear, the damage is often already done. For seniors, this is especially dangerous. Mercury accumulates in the brain. Over time, it can contribute to cognitive decline and memory problems, symptoms that mimic early dementia. Researchers have found correlations between chronic low-level mercury exposure and accelerated aging of the nervous system. Lead has been linked to cardiovascular disease. It can raise blood pressure and damage blood vessel walls. It increases your risk of heart attack and stroke. For seniors already dealing with heart conditions, lead exposure is like adding fuel to a fire that is already burning. Cadmium targets the kidneys. It accumulates in kidney tissue and can cause chronic kidney disease over years of exposure. Given that kidney function naturally declines with age, cadmium exposure can push already stressed kidneys past their ability to compensate. The packaging says wild caught. What it does not say is where those wild fish actually came from, or what toxins they absorbed swimming in polluted waters before ending up in your pantry. Number 6 on our list is Beachcliff sardines. Beachcliff is one of those budget brands you see on the bottom shelf at the grocery store. The price is right. A few dollars for a can of sardines. Hard to argue with that. But with Beachcliff, you get exactly what you pay for. Consumer reviews consistently describe a harsh, overly fishy taste that is off-putting even to sardine enthusiasts. The texture has been called rubbery, unappetizing, almost artificial in consistency. Some describe opening the can and being hit with an overwhelming smell that fills the entire kitchen. And then there is the sodium problem. Beachcliff sardines packed in soybean oil contain some of the highest sodium levels in the canned sardine market. A single can can contain up to 30% or more of your daily recommended sodium intake. Health Canada recommends keeping sodium intake below 2,000 milligrams per day. That is about 1 teaspoon of salt. Eat 1 can of Beachcliff sardines, and you have already consumed a significant chunk of that daily limit. Let me put this in concrete terms. A healthy blood pressure reading is around 120/80. According to Statistics Canada, nearly 1 in 4 Canadian adults has high blood pressure. Among seniors over 65, that number jumps dramatically. Some estimates suggest that more than half of Canadians over 60 are dealing with hypertension. Now imagine this scenario. You are managing your blood pressure. Your doctor has you on medication. You are watching your diet. You feel good. Then you eat a can of sardines for lunch. You do not think twice about it. Fish is healthy, right? But that single can just deliver 600 to 700 milligrams of sodium into your system. Maybe more if it was packed in salted water or a flavored sauce. Your blood vessels constrict. Your heart has to pump harder to push blood through narrowed arteries. Your blood pressure spikes. If this happens occasionally, your body can compensate. But if you are eating high-sodium sardines multiple times a week, thinking you are doing something good for your health, you could be sabotaging your own cardiovascular system without even knowing it. The irony is painful. You chose sardines because you wanted the omega-3 benefits for your heart, but the sodium content is working against you, potentially negating those benefits entirely. The cheap price tag is not worth the risk to your cardiovascular health. Most people never learn how to protect themselves from these hidden dangers, but we will break it down at the end of the video. Stick around because the solution could change the way you shop forever. At number 5, we have generic store-brand sardines. You know the ones, the no-name cans. The brands that Walmart, Costco, or your local grocery chain slaps their own label on. They look identical to the name brands, but cost half the price. There is a reason for that. Generic store brands source their sardines from the cheapest suppliers they can find. There is no consistency in where the fish come from, no traceability, no rigorous quality control. One can might be decent, The next can from the same store could be filled with fish from a completely different part of the world, processed in a completely different facility, with completely different standards. A Consumer Council study found that canned sardines contain some of the highest levels of metallic contaminants among all canned fish tested. Nearly half of the sardine samples in one study were found to contain polychlorinated biphenyls, known as PCBs. These are carcinogenic contaminants, cancer-causing chemicals in your affordable can of sardines. PCBs were banned decades ago, but they persist in the environment and accumulate in fish that swim in contaminated waters. And here's the catch with store brands. There is no transparency. The label does not tell you where the fish came from. It does not tell you how it was processed. It does not tell you whether the facility passed its last health inspection. You are rolling the dice every time you reach for that generic can. For seniors on a fixed income, the cheaper option might seem like the smart choice, but saving $2 on sardines is not worth the potential medical bills down the road. If this helps you stay safer at the store, hit subscribe. It is free, and it means you will never miss these exposés. Number 4 brings us to certain imported sardine brands with deceptive labeling. Walk down the sardine aisle at any Canadian grocery store, and you will see cans from Portugal, Morocco, Thailand, Poland. Some of these imports are excellent quality. Others are hiding serious problems behind attractive packaging. The issue is that Canada does not require sardine brands to disclose exactly where their fish were caught. A can might say product of Portugal, but the sardines inside could have been caught in heavily polluted Mediterranean waters, shipped to Portugal for canning, then exported to Canada. Research has found that sardines from certain Mediterranean regions contained mercury, lead, and cadmium levels that exceeded both regulatory and European legislation threshold values. The fish looked fine, smelled fine, but they were loaded with toxic metals. And once those metals are in your system, your body has a hard time getting rid of them. They accumulate in your kidneys, your liver, your brain. For seniors already dealing with reduced kidney function, which is common as we age, heavy metal exposure is like throwing gasoline on a fire. Your kidneys are already working overtime. Adding mercury and lead to the mix can push them past their breaking point. The fancy European label does not guarantee safety. It might just be masking where the fish really came from. Why do you think the CFIA lets brands use ingredients sourced from countries with far lower safety standards? Should there not be more transparency about where our food really comes from? Drop your thoughts in the comments. At number 3, we have sardine brands packed in soybean oil or other vegetable oils. This one catches a lot of people off guard. You look at a can of sardines and think oil is oil. Whether it is olive oil or soybean oil, what difference does it make? A massive difference, actually. Soybean oil is a highly processed, pro-inflammatory oil. It is cheap for manufacturers to use, which is why so many budget sardine brands pack their fish in it. But research has linked high consumption of soybean and other vegetable oils to increased inflammation throughout the body. For seniors dealing with arthritis, joint pain, or chronic inflammation, eating sardines packed in soybean oil might actually make your symptoms worse. You think you are eating a healthy, omega-3 rich fish. Meanwhile, the oil surrounding that fish is triggering an inflammatory response. It is also worth noting that many sardine brands packed in vegetable oils contain higher overall fat content and calories, without the cardiovascular benefits that come from extra virgin olive oil. The label promises omega-3 goodness. What it delivers is a fish swimming in inflammatory oil. That could be aggravating your health conditions instead of helping them. What is the worst sardine experience you have ever had? An off smell? A strange texture? Let us know in the comments. Now at number 2, we have sardine brands with BPA-lined cans. BPA stands for bisphenol A. It is a chemical that has been used for decades in the lining of metal cans to prevent corrosion and extend shelf life. The problem is that BPA is an endocrine disruptor. It can interfere with your hormones. It mimics estrogen in the body, potentially throwing your entire hormonal system out of balance. Research has linked BPA exposure to heart disease, diabetes, reproductive problems, and even certain cancers. BPA was first synthesized over a century ago. It became widely used in food packaging in the 1950s, because it created a perfect barrier between metal cans and their acidic or oily contents. Without that lining, your canned goods would taste metallic and spoil faster. For decades, nobody questioned whether BPA was safe, It was just part of the canning process. Then researchers started noticing something strange. BPA behaves like estrogen in the body. SAR binds to estrogen receptors. It triggers hormonal responses. And because it is fat-soluble, it builds up in your body tissue over time. Studies have linked BPA exposure to an increased risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease, and certain hormone-sensitive cancers including breast and prostate cancer. And here's the alarming part. Not all sardine brands have made the switch to BPA-free cans. Some of the biggest names in the Canadian market still use cans with BPA linings. When those cans sit on a shelf for months or even years, that BPA can leach into the oily liquid the sardines are packed in. Every bite you take might be giving you a dose of hormone-disrupting chemicals. For seniors already navigating hormonal changes that come with age, the last thing you need is a chemical compound messing with your endocrine system. For men, BPA exposure has been linked to reduced testosterone. Men experiencing natural declines in testosterone do not need BPA, making the situation worse. For women, it can interfere with already shifting estrogen levels. Women navigating menopause do not need synthetic estrogen mimics, interfering with their body's adjustment process. The can looks safe, but what is lining the inside of that can could be slowly poisoning you. Do not go yet. We are about to reveal the solution, the two brands that actually protect your health. Most people never find out which ones are truly safe, but you will because the answer is coming at the very end. Is it not strange how billion-dollar food companies keep having recalls, yet their products are still on every shelf? Why do you think that is? Accidents or just the ones they got caught on? Let me know what you think in the comments. Coming in at number 1, the worst Canadian canned sardine category to avoid is any brand with a history of recalls and no transparency about sourcing. This is the big picture danger that ties everything together. We have talked about specific brands, specific incidents, but the pattern is clear. The Canadian canned sardine market is filled with brands that prioritize profit over safety. They source from the cheapest suppliers. They cut corners on quality control. They use packaging materials linked to health problems. They load their products with sodium that can spike your blood pressure. They fail to disclose where their fish actually come from. When something goes wrong, when the bacteria shows up, when the recall happens, they issue a press release and move on like nothing happened. The statistics tell the story. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has issued over 120 food recall warnings in a single year. Many of these recalls were classified as Class 1 high-risk recalls involving potential contamination with dangerous pathogens. And yet these brands stay on the shelves. Their marketing stays slick. Their promises stay bold. Quality you can trust. Fresh from the ocean. Heart healthy. The betrayal of trust is systematic. For seniors who grew up trusting brand names, trusting Canadian labels, trusting that someone somewhere was making sure the food on the shelf was safe, this is a hard pill to swallow. Without transparency, without third-party testing, without accountability, you cannot trust the label on that sardine can. The question is not whether you should avoid one brand over another. The question is whether you can trust any of them without doing your homework first. Now for the good news. Not all sardine brands are cutting corners. Some companies have made safety, quality, and transparency their entire business model. If you want to enjoy sardines without gambling with your health, here are the two brands that have earned our recommendation. The first actual safe option is Wild Planet Sardines. Wild Planet has built their reputation on doing things differently. Their sardines are sustainably caught from the North Pacific, using selective harvesting methods that minimize bycatch. Every can is non-GMO project, verified. But here is what matters most for your health. Wild Planet uses BPA-free can linings. They are transparent about exactly where their fish come from. Their sardines average over 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA, omega-3 fatty acids per serving, which is exactly what you want for heart and brain health. The fish are firm and meaty with a clean taste that even people who do not usually like sardines can appreciate. No mushy texture, no overwhelming fishiness, and they offer low sodium and no salt added options for anyone managing blood pressure concerns. Wild Planet is available at most major Canadian grocery chains and online retailers. It costs a bit more, around $8 to $10 a can. But when it comes to protecting your health, you get what you pay for. And with Wild Planet, you are paying for real quality and real transparency. The second recommendation is Safe Catch Wild Sardines. Safe Catch takes purity to an entirely different level. They are the only Sardine brand that tests every single catch of fish for mercury, not random samples, every catch. Their mercury limit is 10 times stricter than regulatory action limits. If the fish do not pass their standards, Safe Catch does not buy them. For seniors concerned about heavy metal accumulation, this is huge. Their sardines are hand-packed and slow-cooked in the can to retain all the natural omega-3 oils. Each serving contains over 1,600 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids and 24 grams of protein. Safe Catch is certified by the American Pregnancy Association, which means their products have met the strictest purity standards in the industry. If it is safe for pregnant women and developing babies, it is safe for seniors who care about their health. Their cans are also BPA non-intent, meaning no BPA is intentionally added during production. The taste is clean, mild, and approachable. The fillets are firm and hold together beautifully. Whether you are eating them straight from the can or adding them to a salad, Safe Catch proves that you can have convenience, nutrition, and safety all in one can. You can find it at health food stores and online for around $9 to $12 Canadian. Not all sardines are created equal. Some can protect your heart, others can spike your blood pressure, flood your body with toxins, or expose you to dangerous bacteria. Now you know which brands to avoid, and you know which brands have actually earned your trust. Your health is not something to gamble with. Subscribe now, and if you are watching on TV, tap your remote so you never get blindsided again.